All right, go ahead.
How's James doing in terms of his rehab?
Oh, I think he's doing well. We'll see next week when we get back. We haven't seen him in a few weeks, but I think the whole experience was good for him. And from what he learned from it, from the NBA people that I talked to that had talked to him, it was good. I think we're all on the same page. It's what he needs to get better at and focus on, and we'll just keep moving his workouts up. When he left, everything was really based on his shooting and really playing in a kind of a short space with his ball handling and things of that nature. He won't be cleared to go full for any period of time now, but we'll get a feel on where he's at early next week and kind of build it from there.
Juwan says he wasn't really sure of a time frame for him to be full go or even to be cleared. Do you have any sort of target or estimate?
No. What we do with all these guys, and Juwan was back in the gym within days after the surgery, shooting with the other hand. I mean, we really we do a great job, I think, of making sure that there's never any wasted time for these guys. So even when they can't do something full or they can't do something at a complete level, we're going to get something done, right? When they can't really, when they're wearing boots and things. When they're wearing boots and things of that nature, we have them shoot from a chair, right? So like in his case, we'll see where he's at. You know, we haven't been able to work with him the last couple of weeks. We'll see where he's at next week. Make a plan for that. And the biggest thing is to keep them integrated with the team. And even when they can't do what everybody else is doing, they're still a part of it. And I think that builds the camaraderie and the team building because everybody understands we're all in the same position of where we're trying to go. We just can't all get there at the same time. So that's the biggest thing for him.
How's Robert's recovery going, and did Colin have the wrist procedure? Yeah.
Colin didn't have to have surgery. We ended up casting it, and what he did is a great job with his left hand. He did a great job academically. He just had to heal. So that's where the cast came in. And Robert just went home the other day, and his rehab had been going very well. He was the one that was in town the majority of May. We weren't able to work with him in basketball, but from my knowledge of everything he was doing with Tim, is he was definitely on schedule. So we have no reason to believe that anybody is going to be behind anything. It's just a matter of what they can do and when they can do it. But in this business, everything's fluid, right? Including how many guys you get to work with at any given point in time. So we just stick with that. And again, we'll have a much better indication next week.
Is next week, I guess, when everybody kind of comes rolling back to campus?
Well, yeah, and the reason these guys are here today is because they've come back. Juwan's been here the majority of the time with his rehab, but Thomas came back early, Josh came back early, and they'll get started. Everybody will be back in by Sunday, and we'll get rolling next week. We get 8 weeks, and we'll start that 8-week period next week. And then the freshmen will be in a couple weeks after that.
They just wanted to be with their teammates again or be back in Bloomington?
No, I think they're just ready to come back. Yeah, I think, they all want a break, but then they realize that they've got it pretty good. I mean, everything's right there for them. And so it's just a matter of going and doing what they want to do, getting home, and then it's time to get back to work. They're very, very serious. That's what people miss in this whole time demand thing for student athletes. Kids like in basketball like this, like they want to be in the gym. They want to be in the weight room. They want to be where they're around their teammates and where they can rehab. And it's not an easy process, but it's a very workable process for them, right? When they want to get better, when they've got to get healthier, and it's all right there for them. And they're building on their craft. And in these guys' cases, they want to. They not only want to be great students and not only win at Indiana, but they want to be able to make a career out of this. And the only way you make a career out of anything is to keep getting better at it constantly, and that's what they do. And so I think that's why they come back. But it's getting situated and getting themselves squared away so that they're not rushing once they get back into school, and that's the biggest thing for them.
What's the feedback been from NBA teams on Yogi as he goes through the workouts?
Well, between myself and the staff, I think we've talked to every team with at least a couple guys. I mean, it's important to talk to a couple people in there. And Yogi's his own toughest critic in the workouts. And but it's been very good. As a whole, it's been very, very good. And he's in great shape. And he was a nonstop worker, whether it was once or twice a day, being in the gym. He did a great job of making sure that not only was he in great condition, but he was in great condition for what their testing was going to be. Whether it's a 3-minute run, length of the court, how many times can you run that in 3 minutes? We do that as part of our training during the season, so it's not foreign to them when they get into the workouts, but at the same time, you've got to train that. And I think he's doing an excellent job with that. I think people have been very impressed with him when they meet with him, whether it's dinner, before the interview process, right? Because his body of work speaks for itself, but I think once they see him in a one-on-one setting, personally, and then get to see him in a small group setting, basketball-wise, I think that just helps solidifies what we already know. And I think before it's all said and done, there'll be people moving up to get him, rather than will he be drafted. I think there'll be people moving up to get him, or people trying to get in the draft. I mean, that's how I see it. Now, do I have a pick? No, but that's how I see it, and I'd be shocked if it didn't happen that way.
Having lived through this new NBA draft timetable, do you like how things went? Did it work out, you think?
I think it works out. Yeah, I think it works out. I mean, it's going to take a couple years to get used to it, but the most important thing, there's two things that are going on. You've got to do the very best job you can do for that individual player, and I think we do that, and I think we've done that in the past. But at the same time, you can't lose sight of what's very important, which is your program. So I think it's really, really important that you know your players, and that you know them, you know what they're thinking, you keep the communication with them, that you read them, and you do the best job you can of getting them the most accurate information. And the more that you can get them away from recruiting speak, especially from the agents, or what's written, in the .coms and the draft projections and things like that, which I've yet to see an NBA general manager quoted in one of those things. I mean, I really have. I mean, I read them too, but they're a lot more. There's some that are really good. I mean, there's some that you can look at it and you know that through your experience that they're talking to people that really matter. Then there's some that are just throwing stuff against the wall. And I think that's when it becomes entertainment. And you've got to get them to see the difference between what's entertainment and what's valid. And all you can do is keep giving them the best possible information and not lose sight that you've got to make sure you have a really good product on the court, for your team. And that's what we've tried to do. So I think the days of, I don't want to get to a point where we're sitting there sweating something out with no backup plan, right? I think when people are sweating something out as a coach without a backup plan, they're not reading their team very well. And maybe it'll happen to us, maybe it won't, but we were always going to make sure that we're trying to stay a step ahead on that. And because the worst thing you can do is be sitting this time of year saying, okay, how are we going to replace this really good player? So whether it's the way you recruit early when it comes to over-signing, whether it's the way you recruit late when you're going through the process and there's somebody available in the spring, much like Fred McSwain was this year for us, I think you owe it to your program and your university to do the very best possible job, making sure that you don't leave any stone unturned on that. So there's a lot of moving parts to this process, and I think it's good. And a lot of people are going to have different opinions, but whether it's the fifth-year transfer rule, it doesn't make any difference. All we can have is opinions, and all we can have is the experience of living through it. You've got to make sure you're dealing with the rules the way they are, and do the very best job you can within those rules.
Would you like to see that fifth-year transfer rule go away, or do you like the way?
Well, it's complicated, and I think some that are speaking out about it are not looking at the entire picture on it. I think that to me personally, the hardest thing is what it does to the low and the mid-major schools, because when you look around and it's like, how is a lower mid-major school going to redshirt somebody? How are they going to try to get somebody graduated in 3 years? And I think that's going to be really, really hard, in the sense that's what's really hurting. I think there's two different cases. I mean, I don't know how you penalize somebody. I don't know how you penalize Max Bielefeld because he wasn't given a scholarship back to the program he was at. And my belief is simple. I mean, if you don't want to lose somebody, okay, and you want them to stay, but yet they want to leave, I'm not sure that being automatically eligible somewhere is the best way to do it. But if you don't offer somebody back a scholarship, much in the case like Max, I don't know how you hold them back from being eligible somewhere, including the league. I don't think you should be able to go in the league. If I didn't want to lose you and you wanted to transfer within the league, I don't think you should be eligible to go inside of the league. But if I don't want you back, okay, then I think, all bets are off. How can I have any justification of holding you back? So that, to me, it's not as easy as some are making it seem, but it's not as easy as saying, okay, let's just make them sit out a year and then they can have the next year to play. That's easy for the one you don't want to lose. It's really hard for the one that you're not willing to keep. And that's getting lost in the translation a little bit. So, but again, as a nutshell, if we came down with it and said, okay, they have to sit out, and that would help the low and mid-major programs, I'd be all for that. Because I got friends all across the country, and so does every other coach, that are losing players that are going to affect their job. I mean, you don't have to look very far. Damian Lee was a heck of a get for Louisville, but that did nothing for Bruiser Flint's job status. And so in the sense of it's the rules are the rules. Damian Lee did a great job, but Bruiser Flint at the end of the day didn't have his best player back. And that's the way the rules are right now, right? So personally, I'd love to see that change, but not to the point where it hurts somebody that's not welcome back at their school, because then that's a double penalty. Why would we do that?
You mentioned Fred McSwain. Can you talk at all about him and Devontae Green? I don't think you've had a chance to talk about either of those.
Well, I guess I haven't talked about him publicly. Freddie is, the great thing about signing him is we're finding even more film, right? So like every time I get more film, I see something that I didn't know. Like I'm watching him in a game yesterday. I was watching the game and how quick he was in the post. He's going to be a matchup problem. He is a tremendous athlete. He's got a very humble spirit. He's very hungry. He wanted to be at Indiana, which is a huge thing. You know, once we got involved in the recruiting, I love being around. I love getting to know his family, and I love the story of how he's built himself up. I think he's got a lot of great basketball in front of him because he hasn't played basketball for that long. And when you see him athletically, you're going to understand what I mean. I mean, when you look at him, it's like looking at an NFL tight end. I mean, he's that big and wide, but he's so quick and he's athletic. And his first and second and third efforts in jumping are phenomenal. Where he's got to get better is in his skills. And I think he's gotten better because we've been able to dive into some early film and to even more of his most recent film. And I think you can see the upside. He was very well coached, but it's going to take some time. I mean, to make sure he really gets, the regimen of his jump shot and the ability to handle the ball and pick and roll. But when it comes to moving the ball, being a facilitator, being a teammate, being somebody that can defend, get to the basket, rebound the ball, I think all that stuff is there. And I think when you have that level of athleticism, the learning curve is that much easier to work through because he'll pick things up that fast. Devontae just kept getting better and better. And he's exactly what we want the program to be about, improvement. You know, so it's not just improving when you get to Indiana, it's the improvement that you make before that. And Devontae was one of those people, as we watched him, I wanted to like him, I did like him, but I needed to see more. And by the time we offered him a scholarship, I'd seen plenty. And I don't even think we're even close to seeing how much we're going to see. So he can defend at a high level. He's got a very low center of gravity, so he gets down, he can guard you, he can get by you. He's very, very efficient with his passing and with his shooting. His decision-making got a lot better. He loves to play, and I think that's one of those things that it's really easy to look at a basketball player and say they love to play. They don't all love to play. Like these three that are with us today, they love to play. They love to be in the gym. And these guys that we're talking about, they love to be in the gym. And when you've got that, when you've got that kind of upside and that kind of efficiency, I don't think you can help but get better. So both of them are going to come in and compete along with Curtis and Duran and Grant. And everybody brings something different to the table, but the thing that they all bring is I think they're going to all get a lot better. And we're always going to be a program that if we're going to have to make a choice between the finished product and the upside, we're going to go upside all the time. I mean, look at the improvement Max made at the age of 22, right? He made tremendous improvement because he worked at it, he got some things worked out with his offensive game, and all of a sudden his confidence skyrocketed, and he played both ends of the court at a high level. So you just got to keep, that's what we're always recruiting for, is that level of upside.
Okay,
So you
that's
go-
all. That's
No,
all.
we're good, we're good. What's going on up there?
They're just getting ready to start the program.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I guess as you go through this process of replacing your primary ball handler, what are some of the qualities you're really evaluating and looking for?
You mean with this current team?
Yeah, with some of the guys that are there to maybe step into that role.
Oh, well, I think that's decision making. You know, we've got to have a great summer. Rob's got to get better handling the ball. James has got to get better handling the ball. And James was improving in that area, but obviously over the last few months, it's all been in a very short space. It's not been with rapid fire. And the way we try to orchestrate our summer and the way we try to work with the drills is try to put them in as many decision-making, real-time situations as possible. And it's not just playing 5-on-5 and 4-on-4. It's trying to throw a lot of different things at them. It's like the video game where something comes out of the trap door that you've got to maneuver. That's what we try to do with the with the decisions that they have to make and making these quick reads. So ball handling slash decision making slash passing off the drive are really, really important. That's got to be one of the biggest upsides for OG this summer, for Thomas. Cody made a huge jump of moving the ball from his freshman to sophomore year. Freshman year, he got to the point where he could really drive the ball. So the sophomore year, he could drive it and kick it. And that's really what you want to get to. So I don't know if this is going to be a team that's just going to say, let's give the ball to one guy at the end of the clock and let him go make the play for everybody else. I'm not sure we're going to be like that. It could be a lot more like the team in 13 where Jordan handled the ball, Yogi handled the ball, but Victor had the ball in his hands at the end of the shot clock as much as anybody in middle pick and roll. So it just remains to be seen, but everybody has got to get better with the ball. The thing that we have is we have a lot of willing passers, and we have a lot of guys that you have to guard to the three-point line. And when you have that, it makes it a lot easier to get the ball handling better because there's less traffic. When there's a lot of traffic sitting in the middle of the lane because they can sag off the guys at the three-point line, it makes your ball handling a lot harder to come by. And this team got better last year with its passing, and it didn't seem like it at times, but it did. And I think this team will do the same thing because there's going to be so much more ability to space the floor.
I guess Thomas kind of said that essentially he was comfortable not going through the pre-draft process because he had a strong command of where he needed to improve, and then he felt like he could do that where he was. He didn't kind of need to go through it. What does that say about the maturity of a player that's maybe, educates himself that much and is that confident?
What says just that? I mean, it's a maturity level. He's a very selfless guy. I mean, he's one of the greatest teammates in 1 year's time I've ever been a privilege of coaching. And he'll be a real leader on this team. I mean, he's got all the qualities to be a real leader on this team because he's got a tremendous personality. He's truthful with himself, which is, I think, self-awareness is the biggest thing any leader's got to have anyways, and the ability to be honest with what you have to get better at, but the ability to take that in, right, and then absorb it and do something with it. And that's what he is. He's very smart because he listens, right? He listens and he believes. And but he's not naive. Okay? He's not one of those guys that gets caught up in what he reads. He doesn't get caught up in what strangers say. He gets caught up in what's real. And he believes that film. And he believes the people that are closest to him. And I think that's going to serve him really, really well. He's not he doesn't have to have a lot of self-gratification to make himself better. Right? He's got a lot of self-awareness, and he's got a lot of desire to improve, and he wants to have a really long career. And he buys into all the things that he's got to get better at. And now it's our job to make sure that happens, along with him.
Coach, really quick, you guys play Louisville this season. Could that potentially be a series? And
It is a series, yeah.
And how big is that for the community around?
I think it's great. It is a series. We'll play them at Bankers Life this year on New Year's Eve. Then we'll play in Louisville, and they'll come to Assembly Hall. So I think that it's really good. And there's very little wiggle room on our schedule with the Gavitt Cup, with the Crossroads Classic, with the Big Ten ACC Challenge to put together a series. But this was one that made sense for both places, and I think it'll be excellent. It'll be a great, great test for both of us going into our league play. Hopefully it'll be one of those games that's sold out early at Bankers Life. It's a great date, right? And every time that we've played them, well, in my history as a coach, we were always learned a lot about our team. But even at Indiana, when we played them a couple years ago, we learned a lot. And the thing that separates them is it's not just how relentless some of them are. It's relentless how all of them are, especially their guards. And one of the things that will be such a battle cry for us throughout the summer and fall, going into that season is the relentless spirit that your backcourt has got to have, not only your front court, but your backcourt has got to have to be able to deal with that. Because when they bring that pressure, it's at a high level. I was just watching Michigan-Louisville yesterday from the national championship game. And they were down in the first half, right? They go on the run late in the first half after Spike cooled off a little bit, right? And so, but all of a sudden, that fatigue that they had put in place inside of the first half of that game came back and really helped them in the second half. And to me, that's the whole difference. So I think it's great, but the great fact is that they're such a good team.
Okay, they're starting to introduce right now.
I'm not being introduced yet, right?
No, they are.
Oh, they are? Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.